Hello and welcome to episode number 8 of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. As always, I'm your host, Steve Smith. Thank you for listening in to the episode. Today, I'm going to talk about a few things, of bits of news, as always, that we come across, and a few recommendations and things, including some golf travel. So, Walking the Fairways will be first up. Golf travel, we'll be looking at where you can travel to at the moment, what places to look for, especially if you're in New South Wales and traveling around for golf, and going to be looking at a couple of other places afield. And in the Greenkeepers Shed today, we'll be talking about hole positions and green speeds and why, when they work together, it equals good or a bad golf experience. Walking the Fairways, September 28, 2020. As we stroll the fairways this episode with some news of what's going on with golf courses around the country, I do have quite a bit on this walk. So I'm going to run through them, and we're jumping through a few states, and there's been a fair bit going on that I've been able to come across, and some things I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and getting some info about. So starting off with New South Wales, Blackheath Golf Club in the Blue Mountains. Now, if you've seen my Instagram and Facebook, you would have seen that I was up there just last week, and I caught up with Superintendent Luke Skinner along with golf course architect Harley Cruz. Now, Blackheath is going through they're embarking on quite a bit of work soon to be conducted on the golf course. They have a course master plan that was done by Ross Watson back in 2018. And recently, the club has engaged architect Harley Cruz, as you know, from Cruz Golf. I've talked about Harley in the past and spoken to Harley as well. Now, the club's engaged Harley to be the on-course architect to basically bring to life these master plan works. And the process will be starting very, very soon. And basically, what I was up there for was the first component of the works to begin was building a spare hole for them. So they built a little par 3 up there that's in between the 12th green and the 13th tee. There's a little bit of space there for them to, they've actually managed to build this little golf hole. And it's a nice little short par 3, but it's a spare hole. So it's nothing too dramatic, but it will be a little testing hole just quietly. It's been quite well designed, and I've got some of those details and videos on my Instagram and Facebook. So if you're interested in a bit more detail there, go on and visually you can see what's going on there, and I'll keep you updated in the future. But so the par 3 is being started, soon to be completed. And in the not too distant future, they'll be moving through starting stage 1 of the course works up there. And that's basically going to include a lot of the first hole, I should say all of the first hole, but the first tee, 18th green, is a complex sort of together near the clubhouse at the top of the golf course. They're going to rebuild those areas, which is going to include all of the first hole all the way down, and then coming back up to the sort of the northern side of the first is the 16th hole. So it's going to be the first hole, the 16th hole, tee to green, and then the 18th green complex, which is nearby to the first tee. So there's quite a bit happening around there, and it will also involve a little bit of water mitigation works. There's a lot of drainage issues there on those fairways of those two holes. They're going to deal with all that and really accentuate some of those pieces of ground and bring some life out of those two golf holes. So I love the first hole. Is a great par 5 to start off with. They have the 16th is a solid sort of hole, par 4 heading back, usually into the wind. But from what I've seen on some of the plans that are available for viewing in the clubhouse, with what Ross Watson's done on the master plan and what Harley's going to be able to do on the ground, is going to really sort of bring out some unique parts of the golf course there and bring those holes to life. And I'm really excited because the 18th green, I think if anyone knows that golf course is sort of a bit lackluster. The 18th hole can be quite testing in itself, but when you get from after you've negotiated the tee shot, your shot to the green it's an interesting little green. It's more or less of a pimple on the ground, really. It's nothing too dramatically awesome, but they will be able to make something special. So eyes on Blackheath. It's the beginning of something awesome. It's the full golf course that they've got a master plan for. Speaking to Superintendent Luke Skinner, they want to work through over the coming years. So it's a longer term plan, but they're going to do it in stages, which is a smart way of doing it. Really exciting for Blackheath, really exciting for Blue Mountains golf in general. that a golf club is going to embark on such a large scale of works. And I really think that this could put not only Blackheath on the map, but it could also make the Blue Mountains a bit of a draw card again, with Blackheath being the centrepiece. So something to keep your eyes on, and really exciting, certainly for me, because I know the Blue Mountains growing up there, working there, becoming a superintendent in the Blue Mountains on the old Katoomba Golf Club as well. So yeah, eyes on this. It's going to be awesome, close to Sydney. And I think a lot of people are going to get excited about it too. So really, really good stuff coming out of Blackheath. We're going to move to Manly Golf Club in Sydney. On Sydney's northern beaches, we all know Manly, the beachy sort of capital, surfy capital of Sydney, as it were. They've been busy during COVID times. Superintendent Luke Partridge and his team have been very busy indeed during these COVID times, where they've embarked on a full program of rebuilding all of their bunkers throughout the golf course. They're moving through them. They haven't finished, but with a slowdown of a bit of golf early on in the COVID, now obviously there's plenty of golf happening and plenty of golfers getting out there. But they've started on this thing. They're rebuilding their bunkers. They want to make them super slick, bring them back to life with modern techniques, modern construction methods. They're using capillary concrete as a bunker liner, which I've talked about in the past. We know is a great system to improve the drainage. Now, the thing about Manly is, and I've not played Manly myself, even though I live not far away, but Manly is a very low-lying golf course. It's very near the tidal sort of waters that come in and out around the creeks and estuaries and stuff around that part of the beaches. And when we get plenty of rainfall, drainage is difficult at best, I'm going to say it, even though it's got good draining soils around the place and the waterways nearby. But some of it's old construction methods, and they do have a lifespan. They don't last forever. They've gone with capillary concrete, and some of the images coming out, and I will be able to post some of this stuff from Walking the Fairways on my Instagram and social pages. But the images are looking great. The bunkers are looking really sharp again, and this is going to give them long-term sort of stability in maintenance and really save on a lot of maintenance too, where you don't need to basically rebuild and redistribute your sand after heavy rain and clean all the silt out and all the junk that comes with it. So really, really good for Manly to start to go down this path. I'm sure it's long overdue, no doubt. Any golf course that hasn't had bunkers rebuilt in the last sort of 5 to 10 years it's always long overdue. So this is really good stuff to come out of Manly. And if you're a visitor of Manly, if you're a guest of their members, or if you're a member itself of Manly indeed, you'll be really excited for the golfing season ahead as the weather gets warm and we start to get back out there. It's going to be really, really key part and improvement of Manly Golf Course with these new bunkers. And it really looks sharp. They've got nice defined edges again around the bunker edges. And it's all about playability. And it's going to be regularly better to play golf out of these bunkers. Much easier, much more consistent. And that's what all golf courses want to be able to do, is give consistency to their members and players. So Manly really moving forward with their bunkers very well. And it will be a shining light of the golf course that they're going to have these beautiful bunkers to play out of. So good stuff coming from Manly Golf Club. If you're a member or a frequent visitor of St Michael's Golf Club in Sydney on the eastern suburb side of things, you may have seen that they've started rebuilding their 11th green complex. So it's a full green rebuild, full green complex, including bunkers and approach, is being basically done by Centreline Golf. Now, I don't know Centreline Golf, but they're a construction company, a design agency, and they are doing the work at St Michael's. So it's along with works that's been done in previous years. Centreline, I don't know if they were involved in some of those previous works. I know that they've done the third green site there, which was really good, that I saw when St Michael's was doing it under the previous superintendent of Russell Fletcher. But it looks like Centreline Golf have got this lot of work done, and it's only recent. Sorry, they've got the work. They're engaged to do it. They're getting on with it. It's mid-stride, basically. It's all raw earthworks and everything happening at the moment. They haven't completed things yet, but the 11th green. So it looks like St Michael's are continuing to move forward, slowly improving different areas of their golf course, which is always nice to see. The more wealthy clubs are able to do these sorts of things much more regularly than, say, the regional golf courses throughout Australia. But when you're in a capital city, and the more affluent clubs have a few more dollars and players behind them, they're able to do some of these improvements sort of more regularly and stuff like that. So, look, St Michael's is one of those clubs. Great to see. I always love seeing this side of things. I always love to to sort of look at what's being done, who's doing it, who's constructing it, whether it's in-house or contracted out. But regardless of, they are improvements to the golf course. And if you know St Michael's, I'm sure that this green was obviously one that was crying out for a bit of work to be done, and they're getting on with the job. So again, I'll be putting some of the stuff that I can find. I'll be putting it out on my social pages so you can see what's happening there at St Michael's Golf Club. But again, more coursework's happening in Sydney. If you're a regular at St Michael's, before too long, we'll be able to enjoy the new 11th green at St Michael's. Now, Centreline Golf, I've since found out, were busy at the end of last year. I didn't know about Centreline, but they were busy at the end of last year working at Rich River Golf Club, which is down on the Murray River, basically with the township of Moama, at the twin towns of Echuca Moama. So Moama is where Rich River is. They've been doing a lot of work and construction down there, which was at the end of last year. So I'm going to detail that in hopefully the next episode of what's been happening there. But I'll talk also about Rich River as well in a later segment in this podcast. But Centreline Golf have been busy beavers and a few job sites on other golf courses. So that's who Centreline are. And if you're interested in more of their stuff, you can easily find their information and details on the internet. Another golf course in Sydney has recently been under pressure from government agencies, local councils, to reduce its size from 18 holes to 9 holes. Now, I've talked about this in the past with other golf courses, particularly Moore Park more recently in Sydney, but there's pressure from local councillors to reduce its size. And they want to basically open it up to more, so it's more green space available for the general public to utilise, not just the golfers. So a small number of people, not necessarily a large number of people, have decided that they want to change the size of the golf course so that it's available for, that there's a need for the general public, which is meant to be a large number of people wanting it. So just in this past week, with all of the loud noise from said local councillors that put this motion forward, it has just been voted down. So it got shot down. So there must be something clearly going good for golf at the moment with all of these motions that keep getting voted down. Now I'm talking about ones that have happened in the past. Now I mentioned Moore Park in Sydney. This is in Sydney in particular, Moore Park in Sydney, but also Warringah Golf Club in Sydney is on the Northern Beaches, and it went through a motion similar when its lease was sort of coming to an end. Some people put a petition forward they put a motion forward to change it from 18 holes to 9, and eventually it got shot down as well. So over the last couple of years, there's more and more of these council space golf courses on council land that people have decided, councillors have decided in the local council that there's not the need for 18 holes. Yet when it comes to the crunch, it gets voted down and the lease is then renewed and they stay 18 holes. So I'm not sure whether there's something going on there that people aren't, from the outside are saying we shouldn't be allowed to play golf on this size, it's too big, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, the 18 holes are staying. So regardless of, it's another motion, Marrickville is staying. I don't know Marrickville myself, I've never played it, but it is staying 18 holes, and it does have someone backing it who has a little bit of influence politically, and that's Anthony Albanese. Whether you like him or hate him, that's a public figure that's behind Marrickville Golf Club staying as 18 holes. So, interesting to see another motion get shot down to reduce a golf course from 18 to 9, but a positive for Marrickville. So there you go. COVID-19 has affected our lives on and off for so long. Now, what seems like for so long. But we're starting to come away. We're starting to roll slowly out of it. And in a very good move, I think a lot of people are excited by it, is the fact that the South Australian state, or the state of South Australia, have changed their border rules and opened their state up to the travel of New South Wales residents, which is fantastic. There is now the opportunity for New South Wales, which is the largest, most popular state in Australia, for the residents of New South Wales to travel to SA without having to have a 2-week quarantine. So you can go on holidays to South Australia. Now, it's difficult, nigh on impossible to go on holidays into Queensland. You don't want to go down to Victoria because you don't know what you're going to come out with. We can't get into WA. It's too hard to get around to a lot of other places. So, and that interstate stuff between other states is also quite difficult. So there's a few different rules between each one, but generally speaking, you've got to travel within your own state. But this looks like it's a first change where there is no restriction between New South Wales and South Australia. So we can travel freely between the states now if you're a resident of New South Wales or South Australia. So happy days if you want to go to South Australia and play golf, and vice versa. If you are in Adelaide or any other region in South Australia and you want to travel to New South Wales for a holiday, you can come and play golf in New South Wales. You can travel to the north coast of New South Wales, or you can go down the south coast of New South Wales. You can come into Sydney, or you can go into central west of New South Wales. You can drive through the state and travel and play golf. You can do whatever you like and know that you don't have to have a 2-week quarantine when you go home. So it's mutually beneficial, and it's a really, really huge step. Look, with flying still a little bit difficult, and prices are still reasonably high if you can get a flight for flying with yourself, your partners, your families, whatever, it's going to be possibly a good driving holiday option. Now, I've talked about driving holidays in my golf travel segment that I did in the last episode, but have you ever driven to South Australia and vice versa from New South Wales, and vice versa, have you ever driven to New South Wales from South Australia? It's a great way to get around and travel throughout the golf courses to play different tracks and enjoy them. And I think, there's some lovely golf courses to play in South Australia as well if you're traveling from New South Wales. It's not just the big courses in Adelaide, in and around Adelaide that you know of. It's not just the Royal Adelaides if you can get on there, which you can. You have to find the means to do it. You have to write a letter to the club, and hopefully they'll allow you to go and play. There are other courses around. So there's West Lakes, for example, up in the northwest of the city of Adelaide. There's Mount Compass, for example, which is a wonderful golf course. Lynx Lady Bay, which is another beautiful golf course there down the south side. So there are a few around. Next time I go into South Australia, Mount Compass is on the map for me. So that's one that I want to go to. But I want to talk a little bit about these courses you can travel to in my latest segment in golf travel. So South Australian borders open, so we can freely travel between New South Wales and South Australia. And I think it's a great move. COVID, go and get stuffed. Speaking of South Australia, whilst we're still talking about the beautiful state that it is, Tea Tree Gully Golf Club. Now, they've been busy on their golf course and have now completed rebuilding and slightly modifying the design of the bunkers on their 12th hole, and they really look sharp and fantastic. So a few changes there. There was one really large bunker. They've broken it down into 2, modified the changes a little bit, and they've done a good job. It's done in-house. And, for the team to be doing that work there, it's great for them. It's a good time to be doing those changes. It was completed sort of a month or so ago, a good change to their 12th hole. But they've been doing work to their bunkers for over the past 12 months. And they've been slowly moving forward, chipping through these things, which is great for courses to do. More golf courses need to recognise and understand that if they're going to improve things, just chip away, bits and pieces at a time. You don't need to do the whole course in 2 years. But just bits and bits and bits. And if you can't afford it, it's good to improve tees, bunkers, surrounds, improve your playing surfaces. You might need to strip them down, start again, whatever it might be. But slowly tick through them. And Tea Tree Gully is one that's been doing it in South Australia. But over the previous 12 months, they've moved through a lot of bunkers, but also it included fully rebuilding their 9th green early last year. That's now just over 12 months old, and it's starting to mature very well. So look, Tea Tree Gully is one that's doing a bit of work down there in SA, and I think it's really good. Sandy Links Golf Course, or previously Sandringham. We moved to Melbourne now. Even though Melbourne Metropolitan is still basically in lockdown, in this 6-week lockdown, it's such a long time. There's a bit of news still coming out of the golf courses because they're still able to go to work there, even though you can't play golf. But Sandy Links is gearing up to have. Now, I've talked about Sandy Links before. In previous podcasts, I talked about the rebuilding that they're doing of the golf course, the whole redesign under OCM, full new changes around the place. It's going to be the home of golf for the likes of Golf Australia and that sort of stuff. So there's a lot happening, but they're gearing up to have full 18 holes open for play. So after the rebuild, it's finally finished. They're growing it all in now. It's going to be really exciting for a lot of people to play. So it's public access. It neighbours, if you don't know it, it borders Royal Melbourne. It's just across the road. And the full 18 holes is looking to be open for play. Their target is towards the end of November, early December. Now, like I said, with the closure of golf in Metro Melbourne, my guess is that it's probably going to happen sooner rather than later because they haven't had to worry about golfers. They haven't had to deal with maintenance and that sort of stuff for general golf and play. So they've been able to focus on getting the golf course ready to open. So I'm gonna guess on the side of November that it'll be open, but it's really looking sharp. Like I said, OCM. We all know the plethora of work that they've done. We've heard plenty of courses around, and Sandy Links is going to be one. But from a public access point of view, get yourselves down there once you're here. Sign up. Basically, follow them on social medias. Follow up on what's going on. Give them a call. Find out where they're at. But it's going to be one that you want to play. They're also on their social media pages. They're also running a little cool competition at the moment where you get the chance to name their holes. I'm a bit of a fan of hole naming. The likes of Augusta, for instance, is one that springs to mind that we all know, I'm sure, with the names of the different plants for the names of the holes. Hole naming is something a little bit we don't hear of in Australia so much, but they've got a little competition for naming their holes, and it's just a little bit different. It's a little bit cool. So I think it's a good one to get involved with. Go to their socials, have a look at it, and they're putting releases out every few days of their different hole numbers, and they want you to come up with creative names for them, and they're going to go through and let you know if you've managed to win it with the name of the holes. So they're going to use them to name each of their 18 holes. So I think it's a bit cool. Head to their socials and have a crack. But Sandy Links, very excited about what's coming soon for that place to open. Still in Melbourne, we go to Latrobe Golf Club. Now, Superintendent Scott Irving and his team of Latrobe have been doing a little bit of work again on their golf course in these COVID times, which is a great time to do a few things around the course. I know it doesn't sound good to say it, but without golfers, it's really timely to take the opportunity of time with no one there. No one you don't need to space your work around players, so you can just get out there and get it done. And they're rebuilding their first tee complex. If you know Latrobe, you'll know it sort of backs out off their putting green. So they're rebuilding that area of the golf course just around on the first tee, dig it up, start again. They're looking to resize it and make it larger than what it previously was, which is great to spread the wear, especially around the first tee. A lot of people are nervous that it doesn't quite always come out the way you'd like it. But so just something, I won't say simple, but it's a good job to do, to slowly move through these bits and pieces. Another golf course, again, picking something to do and tick through their job list to rebuild and finally get an opportunity to make a move. So Latrobe are doing it, which is fantastic. Now, for those of you that know Melbourne, know Latrobe, you'll know it's sort of just out the eastern side, just on the northeast side of town. If you don't know it, I'll sort of describe it for you. It's along the Eastern Freeway. There's a group of courses that basically run along the Yarra River, which, as we know, is a famous river in Victoria, and there's a string of golf courses there. There's Yarra Bend. You go just past there along the freeway, you'll come to Latrobe. There's also Kew Golf Club, which is a famous, well-known golf club there as well. 36-hole complex at Kew. Ivanhoe's a public course, and Freeway Golf Course is obviously sort of named for obvious reasons, but they're all run along the Yarra, all run along the Eastern Freeway, and Latrobe is just there, and one that's doing a little bit of work, which is a positive thing to see in difficult times. But Latrobe Golf Club, there you go. Bounce out of Victoria, New South Wales, South Australia. We're going to go bounce up to Queensland. Not a lot to report on in Queensland at the moment for me, but Cannon Hill Golf Course. Now, I mentioned Cannon Hill and this brand new public access golf course that's been built in Brisbane, and there's been word that they are set to begin within weeks. So it looks like in October, they're going to start to turn the first sod, ready to move towards the completion of the new golf course at Cannon Hill. So, like I said in my podcast last time, when I mentioned about Cannon Hill in a bit of detail, first new public access golf course to be built for over 70 years in Brisbane. So exciting times, and it looks like they want to push it through for completion in the second quarter of 2022. So you're looking at basically under a 2-year build. Is what they're hoping for. That's pretty impressive. But like I said, I'll always keep you up to date of things that are changing and moving forward with my reports. And Cannon Hill is soon to start, so get excited if you're in Brizzy. That's Walking the Fairways, guys. Thank you for listening to the headlines and keep getting excited about golf. Let's go to the next segment. Golf Travel is a segment where we talk about, or I'm talking about to you, where you can travel to in a COVID world, because we can't really travel interstate. We travel within our own states throughout Australia at the moment because of restrictions all over the place. So this is part 2 that I kicked off last week was part 1. Part 2, I'm going to get straight into it, still in New South Wales, and we'll go straight into the Blue Mountains. The Blue Mountains are located an hour and a half or so west of Sydney, just outside the metropolitan area, and there are 3 courses of choice that I can recommend, that I would recommend if you want to go away for a weekend and have a good couple of rounds of golf, 3 rounds of golf, whatever you choose, even 1 round of golf. But I know the Blue Mountains well, grew up there, worked there, and played plenty of golf there. There's a number of courses around the Blue Mountains, and some are closer to Sydney, some are a little bit further away in terms of, just a little bit further of a drive afield into the bush, into the national park regions, into some of the smaller towns. But like I said, 3 a pick for me. Starting off with Wentworth Falls Country Club, which is located in the town of Wentworth Falls. We have Lura Golf Club, again located in the town of Lura, and Blackheath Golf Club in the township of Blackheath. I know Wentworth Falls well, did my apprenticeship there and worked there. Wentworth Falls is actually a Dan Suter original design. Now, Dan Suter had basically was asked to put a golf course design together for Wentworth Falls in the very early days of when they wanted to build a golf course there. And the design and the layout of the course is basically as was. They haven't changed the routing at all over the years, just a few extensions for tees and greens, but basically the routing is still the same. And look, Wentworth Falls is my home track. I'm still a member, have been a member there since the age of 9. So something like, 30 odd years, only a few years, only know it a little bit well. Nice golf course. It's the longest golf course in the mountains, if you like that sort of thing. It's not the oldest, but it's a par 70, so it's the highest par as well. They're all 69 in the city end of the Blue Mountains in all the townships, but in that part of the Blue Mountains, it's the longest. We go a little bit further afield to places like Lithgow, and there's certainly Oberon as well. But Wentworth Falls is one of my picks. The next one is Lura. Now, Lura Golf Club is well established. It's the oldest golf course in the Blue Mountains, in all of the Blue Mountains. It is a par 69, not necessarily a long course, but Lura has got something that not many other golf courses in Australia have, and that is the beautiful sandstone cliffs that skirt some of the holes around the back end. So on 15 and 16 and 16. 14, 15, 16, it's just, you got some of the most incredible views that rival some of the best golf courses on the planet. And look, it's the Blue Mountains National Park. It's world renowned. It's simply stunning. Lura's had a few modifications over the years, but the Fairmont Resort's next door. You can play and stay basically very close to the township, very close to the golf course. It's got a very good name, very highly regarded these days again. So Lura Golf Club is there for you to play as well. And probably the one that most people know about in the Blue Mountains is Blackheath. Blackheath is probably the garden golf course of the mountains. Beautiful setting. It's the golf course that has literally the best water supply. So it utilizes that to its advantage and is always very, very well kept. Nice layout, good challenging golf course. A little bit on the shorter side, but again, not that that's a big issue. I've got to be honest, it challenges me, and I tend to enjoy the longer courses a bit more. Par 69, but as I mentioned at the top of the episode, Blackheath is just about to embark on this full course sort of improvement plan, a bit of a redesign. So we're watching Blackheath closely and very, very much looking forward to seeing it move ahead. It's going to be an incredible improvement, no doubt, to the golf course, but as is, if you're to play Blackheath, you are going to have a wonderful, wonderful time and certainly enjoy it. So they're my three courses of pick: Wentworth Falls, Lura, and Blackheath. If you play those courses, you will certainly enjoy the Blue Mountains. And we all know, like I said, the essence of this golf travel segment is that there are other things to do in these areas. The Blue Mountains is known for its food. It's known for its, sort of hospitality as well. It's got some wonderful, really, really old hotels with lots of nostalgia. It's one of the oldest tourist destinations in the country. It's got the beautiful national parks, cliffs, waterfalls, bushwalks, camping, all that afield. And if you go past some of the well-known townships that we know of, you go beyond Blackheath and you start to head out to Lithgow and Oberon, they both have golf courses as well to play. And there's also Springwood Golf Course. So there are a few courses to pick. Certainly no shortage of them, but the three that I mentioned, Wentworth Falls, Lure and Blackheath, are my pick of the bunch, and you will enjoy yourself if you get out there and play it not too far from Sydney. Moving down to the south coast of New South Wales. Now, there are plenty of courses on offer as we move south of Sydney, and I'm talking 3 to 4 hours plus. So there's no shortage down there. You head down sort of past townships into areas of Ulladulla, into areas of Bateman's Bay. This is what I'm talking about. We have a good group of golf courses down there where you will certainly enjoy yourself. And the South Coast is known for its waterways, its lakes, its beautiful pristine white beaches, nice little small country townships along the way, good food. It's a cheese region. If you go a little bit further south towards Tilba, all the Eurobodalla is cheese area, down towards Bega as well. So look, plenty of stuff from a tourist point of view down there, and it's not too far into Canberra, the capital of Australia as well. But I'm just going to talk about a few golf courses of note down there for me that I really enjoy, that I think are worth playing. If you were to say plant yourself at somewhere like Bateman's Bay, for example, now I find that as a bit of a middle ground. The South Coast is a good sort of 3-day enjoyable holiday down there, plus plenty to do. You could certainly have a week and a half down there and enjoy the waterways, fishing, camping, whatever you like to do. But in terms of golf, if you planted yourself at Bateman's Bay, you're going to really have a good time. Catalina Country Club is located in Bateman's Bay, and it is a fantastically well-prepared golf course. Superintendent Dennis Grounds and his team look after that golf course. It's a 27-hole complex, very, very well regarded, and one that you will certainly enjoy and be tested by. They're doing a few renovations at Catalina with Harley Cruz from Cruz Golf. He's down there doing a little bit of work. They've recently renovated the 15th hole, but Catalina is one to play, and I think Bateman's is probably your best place to base yourself as that hub area that I've talked about in the past, and go from there. So Catalina, easy as in Bateman's Bay. Now, if you were to travel, say, north to Mollymook, a hilltop course at Mollymook is well regarded throughout New South Wales. A lot of people know it. Got a lot of good events there. The Priam's a good event. They really have a beautifully presented golf course at Mollymook. There's 2 courses there, but Hilltop for me is the course of choice, and very, very well-regarded course down the south coast, and certainly a good test. But I haven't played there for over 10 years. Was the last time I played at Hilltop, and it always presents so well. The one thing I always remember about Hilltop at Mollymook is just how beautifully manicured the course is. For somewhere out of the metropolitan area of Sydney, it's just so well presented, and it's one of the courses that a lot of people talk about when they travel south to Mollymook and Ulladulla. They're surfing regions, fishing regions, all that sort of stuff. So there's plenty to do, but that's about 45 minutes north of Bateman. So if you're coming from Sydney, for example, you'll drive through there first. But like I said, I still think Bateman's is the best place to base yourself for all these courses that I'm going to mention. So that's an hour, 45 minutes or so north of Bateman. So you can go out there and have a day trip up there and have a game. If you wanted to continue with your group of courses down that way, based from Bateman's, travel south for about an hour to a beautiful little country town called Narooma. Now, Narooma Golf Course or Golf Club is well known as the Paul Hogan hole. It's got a hole on there as the Paul Hogan hole. He did a famous ad back in the 80s with a beautiful chasm, a beautiful cave, really. The par 3 third hole runs, you hit basically across the side of the Pacific Ocean. One of the best golf holes in the country. It is often voted as one of the best holes to play for golf. And the golf course is probably because of its distance from the metropolitan areas and further afield, but it's worth the drive. If you're down this way, you have to go and play Narooma. You won't know where you've ended. You could be anywhere else on the planet. You wouldn't think you'd be on the south coast of New South Wales, but I'm here to tell you, it's one of the most enthralling games of golf. That front 9 that run along the cliff tops is absolutely supremely spectacular, and the views out over the rocks and the cliffs that break into the Pacific Ocean are like very, very much like nothing you've ever seen. It's a little bit like New South Wales Golf Club in Sydney, which plenty of people I'm sure know about and have heard about, but it's just got this par three, and you hit across the ocean. I don't even know how best to describe it. You hit across it, and it's like the cave is just a big open mouth ready to steal your golf ball if you just don't have the balls to hit it hard enough to get it over the water carry, over the bunkers and onto the green. Spectacular golf hole. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go and Google it. You'll find that there's plenty of images around about it, and it's just spectacular. The back nine flows down to the other side, down into some of the native bushland forest areas. Beautiful setting as well, a couple of little water bodies and stuff. But overall, Narooma, it's a memorable golf course, and certainly one that you will thoroughly enjoy playing. So there's another one, an hour south. One more in the group of 4 that I think are worth playing down the south coast that are within a good sort of hub area is Bermagui Country Club. Now, Bermagui is an hour and a half. Again, sleepy little town, country, seaside village. Bermagui Country Club has an 18-hole golf course. It's about an hour and a half south of Bateman's Bay. And it, again, all these golf courses are just so well regarded and so well presented. Honestly, you could be playing on some of the best metropolitan courses going around, but you're in these sleepy little towns. Bermagui is a beautiful fishing village, as a lot of the South Coast townships are. There's a lot of history around there based around history of fishing and certainly the local sort of townships. And you get into some of these areas, like I said, that talk about food and there's cheeses and all this sort of stuff as well. So Bermagui is lovely, well-regarded track. So if you're at Bateman's, you've got Catalina at Bateman's, go north a little bit to Mollymook at Hilltop, head south to Narooma and a little bit further south to Bermagui. Each of these are day trips, if you like. Very easy to play them all, based in and around Bateman's Bay, and you will certainly enjoy. I'm going to give an honourable mention to Pambula Merimbula. Now, Pambula Merimbula has a 27-hole golf course. It's about 2 hours south of Bateman. So, look, if you're traveling down the south coast and you're sort of bouncing along and you've got maybe a 2-week road trip or a little bit more, you might go down there that little bit further towards the Victorian border and play Pambula Merimbula. Again, another one of these courses, certainly within the industry, that's talked about and known about for being well presented, very well playable, great conditions, pristine conditions to play golf on, and one that, again, you'll talk about, you'll remember, and of note to play. So they're beautiful spots along, but because it's a little bit outside the area that I will call the hub for the South Coast, it's a little bit longer of a day trip, a 2-hour drive each way. Makes it a little bit harder, but if you're going to go down further along on the road trip, certainly worth going out of your way to play. And the other thing about being at Bateman's is it is 2 hours from Canberra. So if you're based at Bateman's and you wanted to do something different, you could duck into Canberra, and there's a whole world of golf courses that open up in the ACT. So I think Bateman's is a great hub to stay at down the south coast, with such a great group of golf courses to pick and some beautiful parts of the country in New South Wales to just to visit anyway, if nothing else. You could play one course and have 2 days just traveling around and seeing the sights and the scenery, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love it down the south coast, and you will too. Bouncing on the north side of Sydney now, we're going to punch all the way up to the mid-north coast, and we're going to include places like Foster Tuncurry and around Taree and Port Macquarie. So if you were, for example, for me, the place to stay is in Foster Tuncurry. Beautiful holiday twin townships, either side of the mouth entrance to Wallace Lake, and it is a very, very well-known holiday region in that area of New South Wales. Very, very popular. And I used to go there when I was a kid with the family. We'd go and stay at Foster Tuncurry and always had a good time. But that to me is, for this exercise, I think it's a really good spot, plenty of accommodation to pick from, and a good place to base yourself for that hub for a few golf courses that I'm going to mention. Start off with Tuncurry. Now, Tuncurry Golf Course is in native bushland setting, out on the beach. It's one of those courses that has just the most beautiful, perfect, natural sandy site for golf. Tuncurry is very, very well regarded and has a wonderful, enjoyable and challenging design, and the surfaces at Tuncurry are second to none. It's really, really starting to come in leaps and bounds. They've got a little bit of design work and a few minor changes happening on course in recent times. New superintendent who started there, I think it was about 6 or 12 months ago, Mark Spraggs, who's come from Taree Golf Club and now working at Tuncurry. He's doing a wonderful job out there and really, really starting to show off the golf course a little bit more every month that goes by and every season that goes by. So Tuncurry is on your hit list, certainly if you're staying and based at Foster Tuncurry itself. Worth playing. There are 2 courses there, but Tuncurry is my pick on the north side of the Twin Townships. My next one in the hub, staying at Foster Tuncurry of the Mid-North Coast, is Tallwoods. Tallwoods Golf Club. Now, Tallwoods has had a checkered history, and you might know that I've talked about Tallwoods in the not too long ago past on my podcast after a visit I had up there. I think it was about a month or 2 ago, and Tallwoods really blew me away. I thought that Tallwoods was absolutely spectacular. And in the season coming ahead is when I really think you want to be playing Tallwoods. We've got good rainfall. They've got good temperatures. It's the best time of the year for outdoor temperatures to be playing golf. I think you can enjoy it the most. And certainly for growing grass and getting the good quality surfaces best out of the golf course. So Tallwoods for me is 20 minutes north of Foster Tuncurry. It's a challenging design. It's a Herds and Fry design, 18 holes. It's long. This thing is a mother of a golf course with some incredible elevation changes. It is, if you've never played there and if you've thought about avoiding it because you've heard bad things, whatever it may be, I'm here to challenge that, and I'm going to tell you to go to Tallwoods. It is absolutely a must-play golf course on your trip north of Sydney, up the mid-north coast of New South Wales. So put that one down as a must-play. The other one you should be playing is Port Macquarie. Now, Port Macquarie is out. It's south of the township itself, just a little bit, out on the beach side, on the sandy side, set amongst native bushland. Again, another theme of these coastal towns that are out of the metropolitan area of Sydney. And you don't know about them. Most people don't even know they exist. But Port has got, again, a great rap. It's one of these courses that I often hear about. I've not played it myself. They have a wonderful Pro-Am event there every year that I hear about very often. And lots of pros go up and travel up there because they just love it. Port's a beautiful city, or beautiful town. It's probably not quite as large enough to be a city. It's a beautiful town, popular holiday area. It's very popular for retirees now, becoming that way, and certainly up the north coast of New South Wales, the mid-north coast. It's sort of this becoming a bit of a halfway stop between Sydney and Brizzy. So it's just off the highway. It's known for its water. It's known for being a beautiful coastal township. There's plenty of fishing on offer if you like that sort of thing as well at Port Macquarie, and good accommodation as well if you wanted to go up there and stay. But Port Macquarie Golf Course is well regarded, worth playing, and if you put it in this little hub group of courses that are worth playing, I think Port is one on your map, definitely. So Foster Tuncurry being Tuncurry Golf Club, Tallwoods Golf Club, and Port Macquarie. That's the 3 from the mid-north coast to play. And I'll give an honourable mention to Taree. Like I mentioned, Mark Spraggs, who's a super at Tuncurry, was a super at Taree, and he really started to lift the game at Taree and put it pretty much on the map in terms of quality surfaces. It's Taree is a big township at the mouth, or more or less at the mouth of the Manning River at the mid-north coast, and it's an old township as well. But an honourable mention to Taree. If you're around there and you had an extra day or so, that's probably the 4th one on your list to play. But the mid-north coast has got a few good courses to play there. It's a wonderful holiday spot. Plenty of people travel up there. Lots of camping areas as well in the bushland if you like that sort of thing too. Plenty of fishing. But Tuncurry, Tallwoods and Port Macquarie are your pick. And for me, I can't go past Tallwoods. I just had so much fun when I was there last. So that one is really my pick for that region, and it's another region that's very enjoyable to travel to and set yourself up as a hub to play golf. Now, for me, the north coast of New South Wales really has 2 holiday golf areas to it that it's spread far enough apart. I just don't think I could put them all together and say that you could travel realistically day trips out of your base hub. So I've broken it down to 2 parts. I've got North Coast 1, North Coast 2. So North Coast 1, I'm going to say Coffs Harbour is your base. So Coffs Harbour is a beautiful, beautiful coastal town. It's quite literally smack bang halfway between Sydney and Brisbane on the drive. and it's a lovely, lovely town. So much to see, so much to do. Such a beautiful setting, Australian native bushland. It's full of bananas. It's got the big banana. Everyone knows it's got the big banana, and it's a very, very popular holiday destination. Is Coffs Harbour, but I'm going to say that Coffs Harbour is your base. That's your hub for this travel trip. If you went to Coffs Harbour, you've got a wonderful selection of courses up there, and I'm going to start off with the Big Daddy at Bonville. There is not a golfing person in this country that has not heard of Bonville Golf Resort. Bonville Golf Resort is set in the small town of Bonville, which is just south of Coffs by about maybe 10 minutes or so on the freeway. Bonville is, I say the Big Daddy because it's always voted the best #1 golf resort in the country, and it's usually voted the most beautiful golf course in the country. It gets all these popular votes by the public and all this sort of stuff. It nearly always voted #1 for just about bloody everything. Not quite as highly voted in terms of its golf design and when it comes to being up against, the stalwarts of the country in terms of your Royal Melbournes, New South Wales, your Royal Adelaides, that sort of stuff. But Bonville, because it's more of a golf resort, and trust me, when you go there, you'll understand it, but it is like nothing else you have ever experienced in this country. I promise you that. In a different way to places like, the King Island golf courses of Cape Wickham and the Barnbugles of Tassie and that sort of stuff. It really is a most wonderful setting. Again, native Australian bushland setting in an old timber plantation forest, and it's beautifully carved out of that forest up on the hillside, and the most dramatic pieces of land for a golf course I think I have seen. I think when they were building it, they probably didn't realize just how dramatic it really was. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but it's pretty much off its head. And if you go there, it's one of a kind. So often voted the most beautiful golf course in the country. It's, it just always gets these accolades. And the quality of the course backs it up. So it's just fantastic. So you base yourself in Coffs. So you play Bonville. You have to play Bonville. Whatever they ask you to pay at Bonville, you just pay. You pay the man and you go out there and play golf because it's unforgettable. In Coffs Harbour itself, it's got a 27-hole golf course. It is very well regarded, beautiful sandy site. It is nearby the airport in town, but it's just got a great run of holes, 27 holes, but some great layout holes, very challenging, and again, very highly regarded. You can't go wrong at Coffs Harbour Golf Course itself. It's beautiful. You really enjoy it. And between those two alone, you're going to have a field day. Then you have Sawtell, which is a little bit further south like Bonville. You'll actually drive past it on the way to Bonville. Sawtell's got a lovely golf course there, which is a good test, a steady test. It's a good sort of a local golf course for the local members and some of the locals that'll play a different track every now and then. Sawtell. I've heard that I've not played Sawtell. I've heard that it's a wonderful little track, so it's on my hit list because I hear a lot about it. Bonville, Coffs, Sawtell. I'm going to throw one in there that I've not played. I wish I've played, and it still frustrates me that I haven't, and that's Nambucca Heads. Nambucca Heads is, it's about half an hour south of Coffs Harbour, and it is quite remarkable. Nambucca Heads Golf Course is actually situated, so I'm going to throw it out there. It's on its own island. The only other golf course that I know that's on its own island is Hamilton Island Golf Course, which is actually not on Hamilton Island. It's on Dent Island across the passage. It's on its own it's a golf course on its own island, the same as Nambucca Heads is. Now, I didn't realise this. Nambucca is on Stewart's Island, which is in the middle of the Nambucca River, near the mouth of the Nambucca River up the north coast there. And it's literally on a sand island in the middle of the river. And the golf course takes up the whole island, every part of it. So one that I want to get at, if you've seen photos of this place, if you've looked at it on Google Earth like I have, you just want to get there and play golf. So I'm disappointed I haven't played it. That's one that's probably a bit of a surprise packet for me, that it's starting to get a little bit more highly regarded in greenkeeping circles for presentation and that sort of stuff. So you've got Bonville, Coffs, Sawtell, and Nambucca Heads. They're the four based at Coffs Harbour that you'll get around and play quite easily. And look, if you didn't want to vary your courses and play different ones, you just play Bonville 4 times. I promise you. But in the interest of travel, we're there to play different courses and experience different things. So Bonville, Coffs, Sawtell, and Nambucca Heads, You can't go wrong with Nambucca on its own island in the middle of the river. One of a kind, or two of a kind. It's the only other one I know of in Australia that's on its own island. So there you go. They're the four. North Coast number 1. North Coast 2 is a little bit further north, pushing towards the Queensland border, but we can't go into Queensland. Don't argue with the Premier. We can't go over across that line. So because we'll just have to stick with places like Byron Bay. There's plenty of worse places you could be, I'm sure, but North Coast number 2, this is it for me. So right up past Coffs Harbour we go, and we're going to base ourselves at Byron Bay. Why not? It's worse places you could base yourself, I suppose. So let's stay at Byron Bay. Now, if we go from Byron Bay as our hub, we're going to travel to a suburb, more or less, of Byron Bay. It's about 5 minutes out of town, just on the south side of Byron Bay itself, to Byron Bay Golf Club. Now, it's at Suffolk Park, I think it's called. Yeah, Suffolk Park. So if we go to Byron Bay at Suffolk Park and we have a game of golf there, you will struggle to find a better quality golf course in this country. Now, I know I say that about a few of the courses so far. They're highly regarded, all that sort of stuff. Byron Bay stands out for me because it was probably the biggest surprise packet I have ever experienced for a golf course. I was not expecting to come across what I did, and I still thank to this day Nick from Airswing Media to get me and drag me to Byron Bay Golf Club. That's his home track. And I just, words still, I struggle to describe what I experienced when I saw it for the first time with my own eyes. The level of presentation by Superintendent Sean Cross and his team is out of this world. It's mesmerizing. It is. Look, just go to Byron. Go to Byron and just play golf. Just enjoy it for what it is. It's an old layout of a golf track. It's a little bit older in the design stakes. There's nothing flashy, nothing, none of this modern type design flair with green shapes and bunkers here and there, and how they layer it and staggered and all sorts of different things. And it's an old country regional golf course, and you can tell when you go there. But what really brings this place out is the quality and the presentation of the golf course, of the quality of the turf surfaces. They're just out of this world. Byron is somewhere that you could just play and play and play and play and play and play and still not believe that it costs what it costs. I think it's something like $40 for a round or something. It's just insane how cheap it is compared to some of the resort courses that you'll play around the country. Byron, we've all heard of Byron Bay. We all know it's a very, very beautiful little, I'll say large but sleepy holiday village. It's known for its eclectic, locals and that sort of thing. But this golf course is one to experience. And if that's your hub, there are worse places to be. Based at Byron, and there's plenty of accommodation there. This is a beautiful part of the country, Byron. Very high rainfall, evergreen as far as you can see, beautiful rolling hills, plenty of bushland, plenty of walks, plenty of national parks, plenty of surfing if you like that kind of thing. I don't, but this is a surfer's heaven up the north coast of New South Wales. So you could play golf and have a surf, or have a surf and then play golf and just relax to, you could relax for a week. you could probably spend an extra week of a holiday out there relaxing and not even realize by chance. But base yourself at Byron. If you do that, I've got a group of courses to play. Ocean Shores is one to play. Now, it's a little bit further north than Byron. So you travel north of Byron half an hour to Ocean Shores. Now, Ocean Shores Country Club is at Brunswick Heads, and it is a Bruce Devlin, Robert Von Haig design. Now, I'm throwing those names out there because they're sort of notable names that you may or may not have heard of, but I'd heard of them before in other works. For example, they were both part of the Lakes Golf Club in Sydney. Who knew? Most people didn't know that. So there you go, Bruce Devlin and Robert Von Haig. Bruce Devlin also designed Gold Creek in Canberra in the ACT. So they've got some notable tracks to their names. They've got some runs on the board, and Ocean Shores way back when, I think it was in the 70s, late 70s, when the Ocean Shores development got off the ground, they were involved with Ocean Shores. Now, Ocean Shores, I got a chance to play when I was up that way. It's a bit of a unique course. You'll enjoy it. I thought it probably was looking a little bit tired for mine, but you can tell it's got these good bones about it. Long track, solid holes. It's a bit unusual. It's not unusual. It's a bit unique, and it's got 6 par 3s, 6 par 4s, and 6 par 5s that make its par 72. So something a little bit unusual that you won't come across, but a good test of golf nonetheless. So Byron Bay, Ocean Shores. There's 2 so far. I'm going to throw another one in there for you because there's 3. That's why I had to break this area of the North Coast apart, because of the travel distance. The other one I'm going to throw in is Murwillumbah Golf Course. Now, it's about an hour northwest away from the coast from Byron Bay for you. So a little bit of a drive, not too far, but worth going to play golf. Very well-regarded regional country course in that area if you can't cross the border into Queensland is Murwillumbah. So we've got Byron Bay, Ocean Shores, Murwillumbah. Between those 3 and the scenery and the setting and the surfing and whatever else, the pubs, you are going to have a field day up here, no doubt about it. Murwillumbah has good golf course, well regarded, well kept. They've recently got a course improvement plan that was done by Richard Chamberlain. Now, he's previously worked with Ross Watson on places like Yearing Meadows, Cowinda Waters, Magenta Shores. So you know what he's sort of the works that he's done in the past. You might not know the name, but he did a course improvement plan for Murwillumbah, for example. They have a good pro-am event up there, good course. People travel from Queensland, southeastern Queensland to go and play there. They travel around New South Wales, northern New South Wales to go and play there as well. So it's a good golf course to play. And they've got this improvement plan that was done. So they want to be slowly working through that as well. So they're going to try and build their profile a little bit more. Like I said, it's away from the coastline, but certainly worth getting to. So you've got Byron, Ocean Shores, Murwillumbah. But if you add North Coast, the North Coast one that I mentioned to you on top of this, you've got 2 little holiday hubs. And you could really have a 2-week trip or a 2 4-day trip, two lots of 4-day spots, and move around between the 2 of them, go from Coffs Harbour base to Byron Bay base. Well, there's worst things you could do in life, let me tell you. And play Bonneville, the Big Daddy, Coffs Harbour, Sawtell, and then Bucka, and then go up, stay at Byron for a few days and play Byron Bay, Ocean Shores, and Murwillumbah. If that's not a golf trip dream, I don't know what is. And these are golf courses you may not have realised were there in existence in those areas, but I'm just trying to showcase to you what's worth travelling to play at. And that's the North Coast of New South Wales, guys. Now, I left the end of episode 7 with golf travel segment talking about the eastern side of the Murray River and all the golf courses around that area. Going to move on to the central part of the Murray, what I call the central part of the Murray, and we're talking around Echuca Moama, which is a twin township that are on either side of the Murray, Echuca being on the Victorian side and Moama being on the New South Wales side. Now, if we were looking at this area, it's a continuation of all these wonderful golf courses along the Murray, and we'll start out with Rich River Golf Club. Now, Rich River is a 36-hole facility and was originally designed by Jeff and Ted Parslow. You may or may not have heard of those names, those two brothers, the Parslow brothers, but Ted Parslow is still doing a bit of golf design around the place, and they've got the East Course and the West Course. There's a few sort of little differences between the two, which is always nice to see. The East Course has a lot more water bodies in and around the holes, a few more sort of water hazards to negotiate your way around the golf course, and the west side is noticeably less to negotiate. So there's the main sort of difference between the two courses. But that's a 36-hole golf course at Rich River down in Moama there, and that's a good place to sort of holiday at. Again, lots of rich history in these areas along the Murray. There's just so many different things along there. It's certainly big in fishing as well, and boating and that sort of stuff. You got the paddle steamers and all sorts of things down this part. And for this part of the Murray, you probably bounce your way along if you're moving along townships and just visiting each township along the way, for example. So you've got Rich River, 36 holes at Moama. And if we head west, we're going to move west. It gets a little bit drier, noticeably, in the landscape across on the whole. And we're going to go to Barham Golf Resort. Now, I didn't know about Barham, but it is about an hour and 15 minutes northwest of Moama, so thereabouts from Rich River, and it was master planned by Ross Watson. So it's got good pedigree, and looking at some of the images and some of the detail in which I can come across for here, I think Barham's a place that you want to go and play. I didn't realise this sort of west central section of the Murray along the Victorian border, Victoria-New South Wales border, had just as many good quality golf courses as there is down in the Albury end on the eastern side. So there's still some good golf to be had here, and a good little driving holiday for those of you that are considering it. So you're Rich River, moving to Barham Golf Resort, Ross Watson, and then we go a little bit further along, sort of just under an hour from Barham to Murray Downs Golf Resort, which is really much more or less, again, on the New South Wales side of the Murray River, but it's near Swan Hill, which is just in the Victorian states on the other side of the Murray. So that gives you an idea on a map if you're looking for where it would be. It's near Swan Hill, but it's on the New South Wales side, and it is called Murray Downs. Now, Murray Downs was designed by Ted Parslow. There's that name again, Ted Parslow. To give you a bit of an idea, Ted Parslow was he's done a few designs around the place, like these two, for example. Not necessarily known for a big name in Australia, but he's done work in Kuala Lumpur. So he has a few runs on the board, and in KL, done a couple of courses. He's done TPC at KL, which I didn't even realise he's done sort of to that level. So obviously got runs on the board internationally, as well as some in Australia with those couple of courses that I mentioned. But to do 3 courses in Kuala Lumpur, and including TPC, which is pretty impressive thing to have on your resume. So these aren't golf courses to sneeze at. Good pedigree in terms of design, and certainly along the Murray, you know it's going to be good quality presentation and to play on. So Murray Downs is one 18-hole facility. People know about it, and certainly is on the map on the Murray River holiday district for golf. So there's and a little bit of background. So the Murray Downs golf course itself, it's actually situated in the heart of the Kidman Reed's historic Murray Downs sheep station. So that's why it's on the New South Wales side and not in the township of Swan Hill. So obviously, and part of that, on the sheep station, they've decided they wanted to do this golf resort, and I'm sure they're all getting their water from the Murray River. So you've got plenty of, like I said, plenty of water, good quality. That they really have a good design background, and they had money to build these courses back in the day. This course was done in the early 80s that it was completed. So you've got these beautiful golf courses along the Murray. Overall, good stretch, countless golf courses in the 2 golf travel segments that I've talked about along the Murray. So really, eastern side at Albury, more central part stemming from Echuca, Moama and the Twin Townships, and then heading west from there all the way up towards Swan Hill. So you've got plenty of golf. The Murray is just this. Look, it's probably the most prolific golf destination in the country now that I've sort of been looking into it for you, and I really do hope that you're going to travel into there and enjoy your golf. And if you do, let me know, tag me, put your photos up on socials, and tag me at the Golfing Greenkeeper, because I'd really be interested to see some of your photos. I've only seen limited stuff around there, and really want to get down there and play it myself one day in any of the courses that I've talked about so far. All this has got me excited, let alone you. I hope it's got you interested and piqued some of your interest in traveling around. But yeah, there you go. Certainly some good stuff to be had around the place for driving holiday golf that we're looking to go interstate or international. But really, really good stuff, and certainly gets me interested about it, if nothing else. Now, because of the border opening between South Australia and New South Wales, I thought I'd throw in a little bit of golf to be had in South Australia. Now, sure, you can play the Royal Adelaides of the world, Glenelg, Kooyonga. We know about even the Grange. We know about all these top-end courses in South Australia, certainly in and around Adelaide. It's beautiful golfing country down there in and around the capital city. It really is. That's why there's some great golf courses there that we all know about. But I want to take you to a place called the Fleurieu Peninsula. Now, that is south of Adelaide. Drive out of Adelaide, out of the city, you'll head down. You're looking at probably moving somewhere plus an hour or so out of the city, maybe a little bit more, and you start to come across some really, really good golf courses that are regional tracks that you may or may not have heard of. But if I'm going to go to South Australia and get away from the city and play some other golf courses that are a little bit lesser known, this is where I want to go. This is like the Mornington Peninsula of Adelaide and South Australian golf. This is it, the Fleurieu Peninsula. Start off with Mount Compass. Now, Mount Compass has been absolutely smashing down other golf courses to work its way up the top 100 lists that we've all seen. If you've had a look, you'll see Mount Compass throwing its name around left, right, and centre, and really, really laying down some good tracks to get its name out there, so people can understand just what it's all about. It was designed by Neil Crafter. You might have heard that name. It's of the duo Crafter and Mogford, part of Golf Strategies. And Neil Crafter put down this golf course and designed it all and around this beautiful countryside that's, like I said, south of Adelaide. It's up in the hills a little bit. It's look, this place, when I went to Adelaide, I'm actually disappointed I didn't get the time because I went there for a friend's wedding. I wasn't able to get away from the city itself. We're up the Barossa, and we went there for a wedding and then ended up having to fly home. It was a short stay, wonderful trip, but got to go in and see Royal Adelaide because it was in the city. But next time I go, I'm heading down to this part of the world, down the Fleurieu. So Mount Compass is on your list. Google the shit out of this place. Go on socials. Check out what it's all about. This is an up-and-coming golf course that you will want to play and you will want to go to South Australia for. The next one on the list for me is Links Lady Bay. Now, Links Lady Bay is a little bit like Mount Compass, where it's really starting to, and has been for the last few years now, getting its name right out there again. It's really starting to come of age in terms of maintenance and quality. It's taken a while to get its name going again, but the golf in South Australia is starting to put itself on the map, and Links Lady Bay is one of those tracks outside the city lights that you really need to get to. Now, it's towards the coast. Mount Compass is a little bit inland, like I said. Links Lady Bay is down towards the water's edge. It's only a short distance from the ocean itself. Designed by Jack Newton, Graham Grant, and John Spencer. Now, some of those names you might have heard. We've all heard of Jack Newton, the Australian classic, golfer, champion golfer around. He's been around a lot of places. Got a lot of input in Newcastle personality. Got a lot of input in and around some of the courses in the Hunter Valley in Newcastle, and he was part of Links Lady Bay. Also, a name there that you may have heard of is Graham Grant. Now, Graham Grant is a former superintendent, and he really wanted to venture into the design side of the world, and he's been part of the design of Links Lady Bay. You might have heard of his name, of a place called Ocean Dunes down on King Island, somewhere that you might have heard of. So Graham Grant was involved with Ocean Dunes, and he was part of Links Lady Bay a number of years ago. Now, I think it opened in the 90s, Links Lady Bay. So that's one on your hit list. New Terry Golf Resort, a little bit further down towards the Kangaroo Island sort of juncture between the mainland and Kangaroo Island, is New Terry. Now, it's starting, new owners a couple of years ago, really starting to try and make its name back out there again. In terms of quality, they've invested in the golf course and they're really trying to bring it up. So that's one on your list too. And the other one, a little bit further west now, along the sort of the southern reaches of the St. Vincent Gulf, but in the Fleurieu Peninsula, is a place called McCracken Country Club. Now, McCracken's probably lesser known in this sort of grouping, I suppose, and it is near the township of Victor Harbour. Victor Harbour is a popular place, good holidaying area in South Australia, but McCracken is designed by Tony Cashmore. Now, it's another name you might have heard of, Tony Cashmore, in and around Melbourne. He's designed, courses like the Dunes, for example, 13th Beach, for example. These are pretty high-profile courses down and around around Melbourne for golf on the Mornington Peninsula and certainly on the Bellarine Peninsula. So, top quality golf courses that he's from, that Tony Cashmore's done. He did McCracken, and McCracken looks like a little ripper of a track too. So, the Fleurieu Peninsula, if you want to travel into South Australia and you want to go for a little golfing trip, because like I said, keep saying we can't go international. We've got super restrictions on going interstate. It looks like South Australia is one of those ones that will accept a lot of people from other states. Go to here, go to Fleurieu and play these courses for golf. Mount Compass, Links Lady Bay, New Terry and McCracken Country Club. That's a hit list for golf travel on this episode. Enjoy your traveling golf, no matter where you go. You'll have a great time if you look at any of these places. Now, this past week has been, and I couldn't go the podcast without talking about it, but just gone on the 23rd of September this past week was International Thank a Super Day. Now, the idea of that is just to get a bit of recognition around of the men and the women that look after the golf courses that we all play on and we all enjoy. Now, I've got a bit of a challenge out there, and I did a post with this for Thank a Super, and I mentioned one of the supers that I know of and a course that I'm a fan of, and that's Duntry League out in Western New South Wales at the township of Orange, and the superintendent is Grant Barrett. Now, the idea around Thank a Super Day is not just the supers, but it's also their team, it's also the volunteers, it's anyone that's involved in maintaining the golf course for us to go out there and enjoy. But the supers are always the lead people behind the team. They're the ones that sort of, orchestrate the maintenance behind the golf course and trying to bring out the best in the course. And they build a team around them to get that job done the best that they can. And so without superintendents and without the team that they have around them to do that job, it all falls apart. So if golf courses and have a wonderful team and you know who they are, if they've got a great team and great people around them, they can produce a great facility for us to enjoy. And the idea is just to get recognition out there to those people that do it, where we're always behind the scenes. We're out early mornings, we finish late at nights, we're sometimes in the middle of the nights, we do weekends and all that sort of stuff, times when you're not out there playing golf more often than not. And that's the idea. So we're trying to present what we can for you to go out there and enjoy it the best you can. I've got a bit of a challenge for everyone, right? I want you to go, because I did a post and I got a little bit of feedback from it, which was great. A few people mentioned some of the superintendents that they wanted to thank and the greenkeepers, the courses that they enjoy playing and the courses that they know, which is wonderful, fantastic. But I was looking for also a little bit more as well. And I think a lot of people out there, like yourselves listening, don't know the superintendent or any of the greenkeepers that look after the golf courses that you play. I want you, when you go out to your next game next weekend, to go and find out who the superintendent is of your golf course, or who it is that, if there's volunteers that look after the course or whatever, go and find their name. I want you to go and find their name and find out who they are so that you know who to thank next time you've enjoyed a game of golf at that golf course. I want you to know and put a name to the golf course. We all know the pros that work in our local pro shops and the clubs because they're the faces of our golf courses usually. We know them, we see them. We know the presidents, we know the captains usually, we know the general managers. We often know the bar staff and all that sort of thing, but we never know the greenkeepers. We're an unfaced group of people that look after the golf course and give you something to play. I want you to put a name to it. So I want you to go to your golf course, your local course, and find out the name of it. And I want you to post about it. And regardless whether it's International Thank a Super Day or not, I want you to just put a post out there and say thanks. Or you can alternatively just put a post out there and say, this is who looks after my golf course, and be proud of it. Be proud of it. You want it, as players, be proud of your own golf course and proud of the people that your club employs to look after your course. And I think everyone should have a sense of pride of their home track. And if you don't, well, you're just not passionate enough for me. I don't think that there's many people out there that are that. When you're a member of a club, you're passionate about that place. That's why you're a member. So be proud of it. Go out there, find out the greenkeepers, who they are, find out the superintendent's name, the assistants, the volunteers, whatever. Put up a post, or even if nothing else, you just know their name and you can say hi to them, because I know that there's nothing more enjoyable than seeing the local members or regular visitors, and you can say good day to them when they're on the first tee or when they finish their game. It's a really nice thing to be able to do. So that's my challenge to you for International Thank a Super Day. There you go. And getting on the back of our national association, the ASTMA, which is the Australian Sports Turf Managers Association, and all the international greenkeepers and international associations in greenkeeping. Let's get out there and do what we can and say thank you to those people. But most of all, I want you to know who they are and be proud of them and be thankful. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the Greenkeepers Shed. Today on the Greenkeepers Shed, I want to talk to you about hole locations, pin locations, whatever you want to call it, the whole location on a golf green and the relationship between that and the speed of a golf green. Now, I've talked about the speed of a golf green in the past and how that can change the way golf is played on a golf course. And I'm talking about all of the surfaces on a golf course, fairways, greens, surrounds, whatever, where the ball rolls. But I'm going to specifically talk about a golf green today because when it comes to the green speed, whether it's fast or slow, and all that's subjective, but there are numbers that we look at when we determine that allows us to determine the pin locations or the hole locations on a green. Now, we in greenkeeping circles, superintendents will use a tool called a stimp meter, S-T-I-M-P, stimp meter. Now that is, and I've mentioned in the past, that is, it's usually an aluminium piece of metal that has a V-shaped groove in it and a notch cut out at one end where you sit a golf ball in. And basically, you lay it flat on the ground, you put the golf ball in at one end. It's a fixed length piece of aluminium. This is a universal thing across the world. And you put the golf ball in the notch at the top end and you lever it up. You lift one end up with the golf ball very gently until it gets to a certain degree angle when the ball will release from that notch and roll down what becomes the ramp, the stimp meter. And you measure the distance from the end of the stimp meter where the ball hits the green surface after it rolls down and where the ball stops. Now, this is done on a level area on a golf green, across all your greens, wherever you do it, it's on a level area of a golf green. And you do usually 2 to 3 golf balls because you try and work out an average. Now, a stimp meter reading is a distance reading. So we do it in one direction. And then we turn around at the other end, work out the average of the balls that you've done, and we put a tee in the ground and you measure from there and you go backwards. So you do 2 different directions to eliminate issues of grain and breeze and all that sort of stuff. And you come up with an average number. Now, the numbers take, we had the US Open just the other day on TV at Winged Foot, and the numbers that you hear and read about, and certainly at your own local golf course, these numbers usually will tell you the distance a golf ball rolls on when a stimp meter is used. Now, at the US Open the other day at Winged Foot, the stimp meter readings were in and around. They tried to get to 13. 13 was their goal. So they're in and around 13. Now, that is measured in feet and inches. That's measured in feet and inches, usually. So you can get 13.5, 13.2, 12.7, whatever. Theirs were measuring at around 13. Now, that's 13 feet, okay? 13 feet of roll that the golf balls will roll on average. Now, what does that mean? It means nothing, really, in a sense. It's just, I'll call it a yardstick. It's a measuring device. It's 13. Now, if we compare that with another golf course, and that other golf course measures 10, for example, then we know that the 13, at the golf course with 13, the ball is going to roll 3 feet further, basically another meter, 3 feet further. So it's going to roll further with that same amount of energy on the ball. So when you're putting, you go to a golf course that has 13, you know that the greens are going to be quicker. If you play a golf course that's measuring 8, 9, or 10, it's going to be slower. So it's up to you to understand. Now, that piece of information is certainly helpful with professionals in tournaments, but I find it most helpful for members and visitors and people playing your course, because ultimately they will see that number and get an idea in their head before they get out there whether the course is fast or slow in their mind compared to what they're used to. And the more golf courses that publicise their stimp meter readings of their greens at certain days of the week. We used to do it at Katoomba. So I wanted to introduce this so that people knew, had an idea of what the golf course was going to play like before they got out there. So you didn't have to go and learn for 3 holes before you worked it out. Or sometimes a putting green can be a little bit different. Putting green is always a good place to learn the speed of a golf green. But it's more concentrated traffic of people practice putting, so it can be a little bit quicker. And sometimes in courses where they don't have enough maintenance in terms of their maintenance team, it's not large enough, and they might not have large enough budgets. If anywhere gets trimmed back, it's usually the putting green or the practice green. So the goal of a golf course is to try and make all the greens, including the practice green, the same, so that you can practice and get an understanding of what you're going to walk out to. But it's not always perfect. And it's still good to give people an idea when they get there that it's going to be fast or slow, because in your mind, you can get that sense of, okay, they're quick today. I just need to be a little bit careful of how I'm doing it, or they're a bit slower, so I can give them a little bit more of a hit. So look, winged foot was 13. Now, the Stimpmeter reading can be given to you in imperial or metric measurements. And so it can be in meters, and it can be in meters and centimeters, or feet and inches. Now, I'm used to feet and inches. Don't ask me why, because everything I do is in metric. But I think it's because a lot of the golf televised on TV in the States is done in metric. So I'm used to the 13s, the 10s, and whatever's. But you'll often hear it as sometimes as 2, 2.1, that sort of thing. 3, I think 3 is probably 3 is, what's that? The best part. 3 is probably 10-ish, thereabouts. On the Stimpmeter in equivalent numbers. So feet and inches, meters and centimeters. That's the number that will guide you or give you an idea of what a golf green's speed is. And it's universal, and I really think more golf courses should be looking at it. But what the green speed does is it gives you the opportunity it gives a golf course the opportunity to understand what hole locations or what pin locations are available to them on the golf course, on the greens, on the holes. Now, usually your golf courses and superintendents and boards and committees will know which greens have more pin positions than other ones. You usually work on the golf green that has the least number of pin positions. So if you're setting up for your championships, usually over 4 rounds for golf clubs, if you've got a golf green that, say it's the 13th, for example, and you know that it's a little bit steeper than the others, it's going to have limited pin positions once the speeds of the greens get faster, because there's going to be less positions to put it that's going to be fair, where the ball won't roll unfairly off the green, for example, or you'll putt up to the hole and it will roll backwards away from that hole if it doesn't reach the hole. So those sorts of things are unrealistic. First and foremost, I want to tell you that there are no rules, no hard and fast rules around the placement of a hole location on a green. Just keep that in mind. There are no rules that govern the hole location on a golf green. So in theory, and I say in theory, you can put the hole location can be placed 2 inches from the edge of a green. Now that might sound ridiculous, and it is ridiculous. It can be placed on the tier of a green, on the 45-degree angle. It can be put on a mound. It can be put in the most ridiculously stupid positions possible. But you don't see that. You don't see it unless it's a novelty day. Something like that, a bit of fun. You don't even see it in a 4-person Ambrose. The reason you don't see it is because it's going to gather, you're going to get players that gather ridiculous numbers, and they'll just walk off the golf course and tell you that you're a clown. And that's fair and reasonable too, that people will do that. So no greenkeepers out there will normally, or even abnormally, that they just will not put the pins on those situations. The idea is, and they're only guidelines, the idea is that you will try and find a reasonably level, and I say reasonably level because some of the older greens on golf courses that were built 60, 70 years ago that we still play on today, on a lot of courses, the green speeds have gone up over time because we've got better maintenance practices, better machinery and so on, that the green speeds have increased, which has made it difficult on some. Certainly, I know on my golf course that I used to work, courses that I used to work on in the Blue Mountains, greens weren't level. There were some greens that were on actual full slopes, and there was no level spot. So you had to try and find the least steep area to put a golf hole on, where the ball wouldn't roll away. It would stop in motion. So once you're putting downhill, for example, the ball would still be able to come to rest and not to continue rolling off the green, for example, or 4 meters past the hole when you're putting downhill. So there's a lot of things to think about in a pin location or a hole location, and it's relative to green speed. So we used to, when we would do greens renovations, we would put the hole locations in areas that we could never normally put them. So they were much steeper slopes, areas where we couldn't use the green usually because the ball wouldn't come to rest near the hole. So because they were a lot slower, they had a bit of sand on the surface after renovations, after top dressing, that sort of stuff. We would get the holes right out of the way where we wouldn't normally see them. So we could use those other areas of the green for a bit of traffic and movement of the wear around the golf green, because we had the opportunity to. But as soon as the greens would come back to their usual speeds, and for us it was sitting anywhere between 8 and 9 usually on the stimp meter, we would put the hole locations back to where they would normally go. And we had a number of golf holes on my golf course where on the greens themselves we could only use half of the green for pin locations, because the other half of the green was designed 60 years earlier on slower greens, and it was unusable in modern speeds and modern maintenance practices. So it was really disappointing. I think it's disappointing that we've lost a lot of golf out of older design. That doesn't mean that we can't do it, and things you increase your use of the golf greens. You might rebuild a golf green because you know that you can't use any more of that green, and it's restricting the amount of wear and tear that can be moved around the green for hole locations and that sort of thing. So in time, as your golf course improves and you do maintenance and you do rebuilding and redesigning and rejigging and all that sort of stuff, you increase your hole locations because you'll build a new green, a larger green, and you'll have more pin locations because you've made more level surfaces around the green with other things in between. But there's more available pin positions. So we're looking for an area around the flag that is usually pretty consistent in sort of like a 1 meter radius from the hole. Around that spot, you want to try and find somewhere that's reasonably level or the least steep on that particular green. But the goal is to find somewhere that the ball comes to rest around the hole. So if someone's putting downhill, the ball will come to rest if they've had a good putt near the hole. It won't pick up speed and continue rolling. The last thing you want is for a ball not to come to rest. And like I said, it's all about finding these positions on the green. So you're not going to put it on a mound. You're not going to put it on a tier. You can put it near a tier. We would often use, a 3 feet or a 1 meter rule near a tier, near a change in gradient, an obvious change in gradient. We would use a 1 meter rule where I worked. But there's no hard and fast rules. So there's no rules. I reiterate, there are no rules on the location of a hole on a golf green. There are only guidelines. The other guideline that we used was that it was, and you might have heard this before, like 4 paces, but we would use 3 meters from the edge of a green. So 3 meters from the edge of a green, 1 meter from an obvious change in gradient or a steeper gradient where the ball wouldn't come to rest on that gradient. So these are guidelines, and lots of people use different things, different rules, but essentially a hole can be anywhere. So you can be frustrated by what a golf course does or a golf club does to set their course up. But at the same time, I'll give you this little bit of insight. Don't jump down the throat of the superintendent or greenkeeper that's put the hole locations out for a particular competition, event, or just that day. The reason I say that is because there is often hierarchy above the people who are putting the hole locations on the ground that dictate where the pin will be located. Now, I often had instances where I was told by our committees and boards on championship events, open events, and so on, where the pin location had to be on certain greens. And they were the more contentious greens, the ones that had more issues with pin locations and that sort of stuff, where it could be considered controversial. So the board would come out and say, look, when you're setting up for rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4, this is where the hole locations are going to be on those greens. This is where you're going to put it. So we could get a few comments put our way from players if they didn't like the hole location. Now, it wasn't always our choice. About 90% of the time, 95% of the time, it is our choice out there on course of the hole location, because we're the ones seeing the golf course. We can see where there might be a bit of damage to the surface from disease or wear and tear from traffic or areas that dry out faster than others, and we'll put the hole away from those places to continue to be able to keep the greens healthy. and play more consistent. So if you put it in an area that was going to dry out, balls would roll a lot quicker, faster than anywhere else, and that particular hole location might become a problem or might become extremely difficult compared to the rest of the course. Or you might find that an area would dry out and then you need to leave the hole. You can't use that area for another 3 weeks while it recovers. You didn't want to have to patch it up with bits of turf if it died, those sorts of things. That's why greenkeepers often do it. But it's not always dictated by the greenkeepers. It is done sometimes by clubs and committees and boards. So bear that in mind when you're out there, that sometimes it's not the greenkeepers doing it. Now, I don't just put that in as defense for the greenkeepers. I've put hole locations out there where people yell and scream at me thinking it was ridiculous. That's because they might have had a quadruple bogey. But generally speaking, they've never played it before. So we often used to try and use sections of the green that weren't used often to try and get that wear moved around the green, because it does cause problems if the hole location stays in the same spot month after month after month after month. You end up having other issues to deal with on that areas. And sure, that's our job to deal with those issues, but the whole golf green is there to be used to challenge you, to challenge golfers. And I really get frustrated as a golfer and as a greenkeeper when I'm told, or when a golf course is set up the exact same way every time you play it, because that's not golf. That's not golf. I don't care what anyone says. In my opinion, that's not golf. Golf should be a challenge, and it should be different as much as possible of the detail in terms of the length of the course and the way to attack a golf green and a pin location. That's the whole point. We have greens with different shapes and sizes, and the hazards can come into play on round 1 of your championships and not come into play on round 2 and absolutely bite you in the arse on round 4. That's the whole reason that they're there. So, but there is a distinct relationship between speeds and hole locations. Now, as I talk historically often about green speeds and speeds of surfaces on a golf course, because they were a lot slower 50 years ago, 60 years ago. You look at some of the tournaments and old television footage, and you'll see that it looked like professionals, the tour players, were hitting the ball a lot harder on the greens to get into the hole. But that's made difficult now in modern day because we haven't changed all of our golf greens on all these courses. But it's easier to buy new machinery. It's easier to learn different techniques and new knowledge and different equipment out there to make the greens faster. But you then limit your golf hole locations around the green. So golf courses I find don't often know the speed of their greens. They don't actually have any idea what they just sit there and they go, oh, they're fast or they're slow. In my opinion, it's subjective. The whole point of a stimp meter is it takes that subjectiveness away to a certain extent and says, right, they're 13. So we know that when they're 13, we can't put them here. But when they're 8, we can use 3/4 of the golf green for a pin location. But when they're over 10, we can use half. And when they're at 13, we can use 1/4. So it really concentrates the wear to certain areas of the green. So it's good for golf clubs to understand what their speeds are and what that allows them to do on their golf course in terms of playability and variety on playing the golf course, not only for visitors, but for their members that play there 3 times a week. You want that bit of variety. You want to be able to get different challenges, and so hazards come into play from different areas, and the wind affects the golf ball around when you play around the golf course, which can make some pin positions a little bit more difficult. And that's golf. That's the essence of it, really. So it's something that golf clubs need to understand, and I say it time and time again, and we used to publicly advertise in our pro shop and when people turned up to the golf course what our green speed was. Some courses have hole location maps where they have broken their greens down into quadrants. They've broken them down into sectors of 6, A, B, C, D, E, and F. And at that way, they change. They've got, they change on their way around to each green. They've got course maps. They've got, different coloured greens, different coloured flags for front, middle, and back, and all this sort of stuff. The essence of it at golf, there are no rules. You can have 18 flags, 18 pin locations at the front of your greens. You can have 18 pin positions on the left-hand side. You can have all sorts of different things where you can have some of them on mounds. You can do whatever you like, but that's not. That's really silly, and it makes golf ridiculously crazy to play where it becomes a novelty event. And like I said, I've seen it at novelty events, and that's okay. When it comes to general competition, you still want it to be realistic and competitive and playable and challenging, but not stupid. But it's important as a golfer, I think, when you go out there to find out what the green speeds are on a golf course. And it's not always relative to the height of cut either. That's a difficult one. So where some courses, a lot of courses don't advertise what their green speed is, they'll happily tell you that their greens are cut at 3.5 mil or 3 mil. What does that mean? Winged foot, for example. I'll go back to winged foot because it's relevant and current. Winged foot, their greens heights were cut at 2.8 millimeters. Now, I've seen that before on courses in Sydney and around the place. 2.8 mil. Mix of wintergrass, bentgrass, but mostly wintergrass. What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you much. It tells you that they're short. They're probably going to be very quick. But if you get a cooch green, for example, cut at 2.8 millimeters, you'll find that it's probably slower. It's probably not running at 13 like Wingfoot. It's probably running at about 10 because of grain and depending on the grass, the variety of that cooch grass. There's all sorts of different reasons. So where the height of cut is often easily found on a golf course, talking to the pro, talking to whoever's working in the shop, it might even be posted somewhere around the entrance of the club and near the first tee, for example, greens are cut at 2.8 millimeters, greens are cut at 3.5 millimeters. That doesn't tell you a great deal because if it's been raining for a week, they're going to be slow anyway. Whereas the speed of the green using a stimpmeter reading, they can be cut at 2.8 mil. And if they've had no rain for a month, only irrigation, and it's been dry and windy, they're running at 13. But if it's been wet for a week, they're probably running at 10. And but the height of cut's still the same. So I'm suggesting that you don't worry about the height of cut so much. Where it's possible, go and find out what the speed of the green is with a stimpmeter reading. And hopefully your local club does do that. And if not, talk to them. Ask them if they can do that. Ask them, would it be beneficial to the members of your club to see the stimpmeter readings? We used to do it on Saturdays. We'd advertise it, and on Wednesdays. They were our two big comp days at our club. They were the 2 days that I would post the stimpmeter readings. That was when I introduced that idea. After a while, people used to like to see it. Our members got used to it, and we put a bit of a routine in where I would go out there behind the greens mower or behind the morning before rolling greens or removing the dew only because it was winter, and we would test the greens every day. I had a daily information sheet, and that's something that I wish all clubs did. I had a daily information sheet that told people what the stimpmeter reading was that morning, every day, and we had staff rotations for weekends, so every day someone did it, and someone sent that up to the pro shop. They put that up in the shop, and every day someone could read what the reading speeds were for the greens on the day that they arrived to play golf. So every day it was different, and every day we had a reading. And I think that's important. I think it's useful as a player to see what that is, and I think it's beneficial. So, that's what I'm throwing out there for golf clubs to do more of. Some people do it, some people don't, but I think more people should be doing it. So there you have it, guys. There's a bit of a shorter episode or shorter segment of the Greenkeeper Shed, but the relationship between green speeds and hole locations is very critical. And I think it's important that golf clubs understand that. And if they don't, they should get out there and work it out somehow to come up with a system for your own club and your own golf course that you understand your green speeds and equally what that then does for your hole locations. It's very, very important. And I think it's important that when it comes to hole locations, that you as an everyday golfer who goes out there and plays different courses or your home track 3 times a week or different courses once a month, that you understand there are no such things as rules for hole locations on a golf green. There just isn't. There are guidelines only, and that's all there is. So it's up to the greenkeepers of the day and or the boards and committees that dictate hole locations to do the smart decision and make smart and wise decisions. Sometimes you'll get it wrong if they're pushing the envelope, but at the same time, the crux of it, like I said, is to have the hole location in a position on the green where the ball can come to rest. That's the idea. When the ball can come to rest near the golf hole, So really, if you place a ball and it rolls away, there's a simple test. If you place a ball next to the hole when you're changing it or when you're thinking about where it is, or even if you're out there playing, you go, that's a ridiculous one. If you place the ball next to the hole and it stays there and doesn't roll away, well, that's obviously pretty good. If you putt the ball down the hill and it's got no chance of stopping, that's not very good at all. That's what we used to do the measure of, was if a ball could roll downhill and come to rest near the hole. That was the essence of it. So that's the crux of it, guys. A little bit more of knowledge out there for you when you're going out there playing golf to understand hole locations. Hopefully that's useful to you. Hopefully you understand it, and hopefully your club can improve and give you a little bit more information when you're out there next time to play golf, just what your green speeds are like, that you can use when you're out there playing and you've got an idea of what it's like. Hope you enjoyed the Greenkeeper segment. And that's a wrap of not only the Greenkeepers Shed, but also episode number 8. I just wanted to quickly say thank you again to everyone for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time and effort to listen, no matter whether you're in the car, at work, at home, being lazy somewhere, doing work on the tools, you've got a plan in the background, wherever it might be, or you're really going out of your way to get a bit of insight from me. I hope it's helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. And can I just also please say I'm more than happy to comment with you. If you've got any comments to make on social media for me, if you've got any questions for me, happy to answer them. DM me on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Happy to reply and have a discussion about all sorts of different topics. And please feel free to pass on the podcast to your friends and family, anyone out there who you think might be interested in it. Really still trying to get it out to as many people as I can within Australia. Obviously, there are people throughout the world that want to know a little bit about what's going on here too. So obviously really like the fact that it's jumping through international borders as well. But certainly in Australia, anyone you know, pass it on. Please help pass it around. And please make comment on the podcast and give it a bit of a rating. I really appreciate it. Thank you again to everyone. Look forward to catching up with you in another couple of weeks with some more information of the Golfing Greenkeeper.